Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are talking about skincare, and I'm going to be making two DIY face moisturizers. We're going to be making some tallow moisturizer today. You might be hearing a lot about tallow on social media, and there's good reason for that. It is so incredibly healthy for your skin. And so today I'm going to try two different recipes to make my own versions. You know me, and you know I like to experiment, so I want to see which one I'm going to like better. So there's one ingredient that I'm going to add to one of the jars. We're going to make two jars total, and I'm just going to see which one I like. Skin is such a personal topic. You know, our skin carries us through our entire lives, and it bears the brunt of everything we do. Everybody has their own personal skin story, and not one size fits all. So while I'm gonna make this, I might as well make two and see which one I like better. So tallow is beef fat that has been rendered down. I have a 3.9 ounce package of beef fat here that I still have yet to render down. And since this is all I got with my last beef order from my farmer, I decided I would wait to process this until I get my next batch as well. So I will be putting this back in the freezer here in just a minute. But you take it from this form and you can render it down yourself, which just means melting it, getting out all of the impurities. There's a little bit of a process to it. It's a little time commitment, especially because I like to render it multiple times, and I'll mention that in just a minute. But then it turns into this amazing shelf-stable fat that you can use for cooking, absolutely, but you can also use it for your skin. Tallow's fatty acid profile is very, very similar to ours. And the skin mimicking qualities of tallow makes it so that it's readily absorbed and deeply nourishing for people's skin. And it's not supposed to clog your pores. I know that's hard to believe because this is a fat, but it actually has a very low comedogenic score of 2, meaning most people don't have a problem with it whatsoever. It's also packed with fat-soluble essential vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin E, and vitamin A, which are all essential for skin repair, restoration, and getting that healthy glow. I would recommend, if you're going to make your own tallow, that you source it responsibly from either a butcher that you trust who knows where the meat comes from, the fat comes from, or from a local farmer and you know how it's been raised, or from a source that says it's been grass-raised and grass-fed and grass-finished. And that's because toxins are stored in fat. And beef that is raised on grain, it's usually consuming a lot of pesticides, herbicides, and just other contaminants in the environment that you don't want on your skin. So you want to make sure, if you're going to be using tallow, that you're using tallow that was raised on pasture. So let's take a look at what we're going to be using. Now, I have here some comfrey infused oil. This I made a few months ago, and all I did to make that was I took my freeze-dried comfrey leaves, put them in a jar like this, and then filled the jar with some olive oil, and then you let that sit for about 6 weeks in a dark, cool place, and then you strain the oil and you get magic comfrey oil. We're also going to be using some calendula infused oil. Same thing, I took my freeze-dried calendula flowers, put it into a quart-sized mason jar, filled that with oil, and then strained that out. I actually did a video on that. If I can find that, I'll put it up here for you. So we're going to be using the calendula and the comfrey infused oils. Of course, we're going to be using the tallow, and I've also got some lavender oil here that I'm going to be using. This is essential oil. And then on one of the jars, I'm actually going to be adding some beeswax. Essential oils are completely optional. You do not need to add them into any skincare product that you're going to be making, but they do come with 2 added benefits. Number one, if you're going to be using tallow, some people think that it smells like beef, and it certainly can. Let me see if I can detect any. I really can't. It doesn't smell like nothing, but it also doesn't smell like beef to me. And that's part of the reason why I render mine multiple times. So you're gonna render it down, you're gonna strain it, you're gonna add a little bit of water, you're gonna put it in the refrigerator, the water is gonna settle to the bottom, it's gonna pull all the contaminants out, and the fat's gonna settle at the top. You remove the fat, you dump the water, you do it again. I do that until my water at the bottom is completely clear. And sometimes that means 4 or 5 or even more times. But if you're not getting the leaf fat, which is the cleanest fat on the animal, which this is not, then it's going to have stuff in it that you're gonna wanna render out. So that's what I do to get clean tallow that doesn't have a lot of scent to it. By adding essential oils, you can mask a small amount of aroma that might be in your tallow, but essential oils also bring a lot of their health and healing properties to your skin as well. So deciding which essential oil, if any, is totally up to you. For mature and aging skin, I have a list here. So rose oil helps stimulate collagen production, promoting skin cell turnover and reducing the signs of aging. Frankincense oil helps reduce the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles and supports cell regeneration. I think I'm gonna get me some of that. I know they sell that at Azure Standard, but I don't have any. Geranium oil improves skin elasticity and promotes cell regeneration. Neroli oil reduces the appearance of scars and also promotes cell regeneration. Now, if you have dry skin, rose hip oil is nourishing and hydrating, helping to rejuvenate dry skin, reduce the appearance of scars and age spots. Argan oil is rich in essential fatty acids, vitamin E, and antioxidants. It helps hydrate and soften skin, improving elasticity and fine lines. And frankincense oil also promotes moisture retention, skin regeneration, and it's beneficial for dry, aging, or damaged skin. Now, if you have sensitive skin, which I don't have dry skin or sensitive skin, I just have the aging skin thing going on. But if you do have sensitive skin, you can do a chamomile infused oil. It's known for soothing and its anti-inflammatory properties. Lavender oil, oh, I do have that. I do have some essential lavender oil that I've made. It soothes and calms irritated skin. It also has anti-inflammatory properties and can help with eczema. And jojoba oil, although technically that's a carrier oil, is very gentle and deeply hydrating, making it suitable to use for sensitive skin. So if you want to mask any aroma that might be in your tallow, you can use some essential oils. Calendula is fantastic for its anti-inflammatory properties, soothing irritated skin, and promoting healing. I used this in the last batch of moisturizer that I made, and I did a video on that, which I will put a link in the description to. And comfrey is often called bone knit. It's incredible for cell regeneration and also for repairing damaged skin, for wounds, for bruises, due to its, I always say this, I never know if I'm saying this correctly, allantoin, A-L-L-A-N-T-O-I-N, allantoin content. But just as a reminder, comfrey is recommended for external use only. I'm going to be making 2 4-ounce jars today. And for that, I'm going to need about 1 total cup of tallow. And since this is in solid form, I don't exactly know how much that's going to take. So I'm going to put more than a cup in here because I'm going to have to fish this out in pieces. This has been in the refrigerator because it has already been opened. Once I open a jar, I do put it in the refrigerator. The rest of them are stored in the pantry, shelf stable. So we are going to fish out and hope that we get close to a cup. And we might have to add some more. We might have to take some out. We'll see. But I'm only going to add the tallow to my little mini crock pot here. I have 2 of these. One is for food and one is for projects like this. Anytime I'm going to be using wax, I don't use a double boiler because wax is really hard to get out. And so I just use this mini crock pot that's dedicated to projects where I use wax. You want to be really careful not to get any water in your oil or your fat while you're making this, because water will lead to mold in your product. And you don't have to be 100% precise on these measurements. You might just have a little more or a little less than your container will hold. You can also use those little 4-ounce canning jars as well. But I bought a bunch of these last year sometime, and I am just trying to work through those, and then I probably will switch over to glass. I think that glass is probably better, especially when you're using things like essential oils, because we're going to be pouring warm product into those containers. We can't wait until it's cool. Actually, wait a minute. Nope, I'm actually adding a step here that I haven't done before, so maybe that's not true. Usually I'm pouring warm product in there, and that can heat up the jars, and because there's plastic, there can be things in there that can leach out, and that can also just interfere with your essential oils. So glass is better to use than plastic. All right, we're about at a cup on the shavings here. I'm just going to do a tiny bit more just to make sure I have enough to fill both containers. And now I'm just going to add that right into this pot. We're going to get this heated up, and this is going to melt into a pure liquid. You'll notice that the bottom of my jars don't have any impurities, and that is because of the multiple processing steps that I do. All right, I'll bring you back when this is melted. For the moisturizer that I'm going to be using beeswax in, this is the beeswax that I purchased. I got this on Amazon, and it's lasted me quite a while. There is a lot of beeswax sticks in here. The beeswax version is going to be a little firmer, but it's also going to add a protective barrier. It's really good for if you have dry patches on your body, or on your hands, on your elbows, which I do tend to get dry patches on my elbows. Beeswax also helps make the product more stable, and it gives it a little firmer of a texture. I'm hoping that I'm still going to be able to get the end result that I am looking for and get it to whip up. I really hope so. And I'm going to be doing about a 1-to-10 ratio. So 1 part beeswax to everything else. So I'm going to be going with just under or up to 3 ounces of beeswax. That would be the equivalent of almost a teaspoon or a good 1/4 tablespoon. So we want ounces, and we want just under 3. And I want 0.3 or less. So I'm going to knock a little bit off of this. All right, we're going to go with that. It's 0.2. Let's see, what size is this? Maybe half a thumb size stick. And the rest I'll put back into here. I clearly have other little pieces in here that I have shaved off when doing projects in the past, and this just lasts forever. It took about 30 minutes to get that fully melted because it was cold. It had been in the refrigerator, like I mentioned. So I'm going to pour half of this off, or up to, I want a half a cup for each jar. So we're going to try to get half a cup in here. That's half a cup, and there's definitely not a half a cup left in there. So I'm going to add more to this, and we're going to get going on that. Now, this half a cup, I'm going to pour into the bowl. And before it completely cools down, I'm going to add the oils. So we're going to go for a total of 0.8 ounces. So I'm going to try to do 0.4 and 0.4. Little over on that one. That was the comfrey. But again, this doesn't have to be exact. And there we're at 0.8, so that's perfect. Now you can see that the tallow is already starting to harden because it's cooling down. So we want to get this mixed as quickly as we can. We're going to add that just right in here. And I am going to scrape out what I can of what's on the side here. And then we're going to mix this together really well until they're blended really well. And then once this is nice and cool to the touch, but before it starts to harden, we're going to add the essential oils. We don't want to heat the essential oils in hot tallow. And I'm going to see if I can get more out of here. There's not much in there, but I'd rather have a full container to use than leaving it in the measuring cup. And I'll wipe down this equipment before I wash it because I don't want to put fat in my sink and then down my drain. There we go. That looks to be mixed pretty well. And now we're going to go in with our essential oils as long as we're not hot. We're just barely warm at this point. And that just feels so nice. That really does feel nice. All right, we're going to go 10 drops. I'm going to call that 6. There we go. Oh, lavender smells lovely. So even though this is not on the list for older, more mature skin, I mean, you can use it, certainly. It's just not going to have a whole lot of benefit as far as fine lines and wrinkles go. But the smell is just so calming and relaxing and lovely. And that's what I have to use right now. So that's what we're going with. And now this is going to go into the refrigerator. Oh, it smells so good. We're going to go into the refrigerator until it's set up, but not hard, because we want to make a whipped moisturizer out of this. So I'm going to put this in the fridge, and I'm going to add some more tallow to my hot pot here, and we're going to get that melted to another ½ cup measure. It took about 10 minutes in the refrigerator, and I just took it out maybe 3 or so minutes ago. The bottom is still slightly warm, but we don't want this cold because then it will be fully set up. So we want to whip it before it gets to that point. So let's see how this goes. I've not done this before. Take a look at that. Let me try a little bit here. That is incredible. That is so silky smooth. That is gonna go right in. I'm just gonna do it on this hand, and I'll test the other one on my other hand when it's ready. The tallow is still melting, but that is wonderful. So we can get that into a container. I'm going to see if I can get what's on these blades off as well. There's not much, but why waste it? That's probably a good 5 days worth of face moisturizer right there. This is the first time I've done whipped. Normally I just do a solid, and I love the products that I've made in the past, but my most recent batch isn't doing a lot for fine lines and wrinkles. So I wanted to give this a try. Plus, tallow is supposed to be so incredible for your skin. And you can use straight tallow, of course. So if you render your own tallow or buy your own tallow, you can use it just as is, as a body or face moisturizer. But adding in the infused oils and the essential oils, if you choose to add those, they just bring a little something extra to your beauty routine in terms of the properties that the different ingredients have. And I did this one first without the beeswax, because if I had done the one with the beeswax first, we would have gotten some beeswax in this one. This is such an economical beauty product that you can make yourself. We did not use very much of that tallow at all. I think you saw that. There's still probably almost 2/3 of that jar left, plus there was some missing from it when we started. And so this is going to last me probably, I would say, 4 to 6 months per jar. So up to a year. And this can be stored or kept on the shelf for about 6 months. So I'll use one and I'll keep the other in the refrigerator. After probably a month, I want to test them out first to see which one I really like better, and then I can keep the other one in the refrigerator. But this is such a nice, light and airy, whipped face or body moisturizer. I am loving the way this came out. I did a little bit more, I think, than will fit in this container. No, I can push some down. I just got to do that. Okay. All right, I take that back. I think we made the perfect amount. I try to be pretty careful with my estimations so that we don't waste any product. Push a little bit down on this side too. So let me squish that down. When you whip it, you're just incorporating a whole bunch of air, and that helps make it light and fluffy. And I'll reuse this same bowl for the one with the beeswax in it, because it's going to have the exact same ingredients in it other than the addition of the beeswax. Speaking of, I need to put the beeswax in with the other tallow that's melting. Now, what I don't like about this is it's a little messier. It doesn't go in with a beautiful smooth surface, but that's okay. When you keep it as a solid, it's thicker. Now this does look really shiny on my hands, but it doesn't necessarily feel too greasy. But there we have it. Now this needs to completely cool down before we put the lid on it, because if it's warm inside and you trap that heat in, you're going to end up with some condensation on the inside of your lid. And again, remember, water in these types of products will cause mold. So we're not going to put the lid on until it's cooled completely. Let's add the beeswax. And I've just got this over behind me on the counter here, just so I don't have something hot next to me while I'm working. So that is starting to melt. We've got a lot of liquid in there, but we still have a ways to go. So we're just going to drop the beeswax right in, and when it's completely melted, we'll get everything stirred well together using a chopstick. Just going to give that a little stir Get that melted down in there. Probably have a good 10 minutes left on this before it's ready. And this chopstick I just reuse, I just wipe it off with a cloth. Now, if you shave or cut your beeswax into smaller pieces, it will melt a whole lot faster. And I know that. I just didn't think of it because it's been a while since I have done this. I'll have to make sure to make note of that on my recipe card. We're getting there, almost. Remember to put them in here at the same time as the tallow, but I would say 5 more minutes and we should be good. And we're not even at the 30-minute mark yet. We're at about the 20-minute mark. And that's because the tallow had warmed up to room temperature and this little crock pot here was already warm from the first batch. So things just sped up for the second batch. All right, 5 more minutes. That should be ready to go. And we are completely melted. So we're going to get a half a cup of that. Little bit left, not too much. And we're going to pour that in the bowl. And then we're going to get our oils measured, our infused oils. So another 0.8 ounces. And the comfrey. And we need our essential oils, so up to 10 drops of that. And again, that smells amazing. I'm going to mix that through. I'm going to get that poured in our bowl and combined. All right, now this just has to set up, so about another 10 minutes or so in the refrigerator. I'm going to just take what I can from the sides here, getting it into the warm tallow mixture. I know that's from our first batch, but it's the same ingredients. The only thing we did different on this batch was add the beeswax. I hope it wasn't too much. We'll see. It's not too much. This will be fine. I just hope that it's not too much for it to get a good whip because the beeswax is heavier. All right, I'm going to pop that into the refrigerator to set up. And because this has tallow and beeswax in it, I'm definitely going to make sure that not any, or at least not much, goes down my drains. I know it will when I shower and it rinses off my skin. But we don't need big globs of it like this clogging our plumbing. So I just pull it out like this. Man, that seems like a whole lot to waste, doesn't it? Oh well. And then I wipe it out. And now I'm not worried about big pieces of fat solidifying somewhere in my drainage system. Perfect. I think this one is set up enough. The bottom is just slightly warm. I'm going to give it a try and see if we can get it whipped. And I went ahead and I just dumped out the little remnants that were in my little mini crock pot because it's not enough to make a batch and I don't want to dump it down the sink. So let's see if we can get this one whipped up. And I've decided I'm not going to keep either of these in the refrigerator because the one I like the best I'll use on my face, and the one that is still good but maybe not my favorite I'll use on my body. And now we can get this put in there as well. This one whipped up beautifully. I'm surprised. I thought that it would have a lot more resistance to it with the beeswax in there. And I love the idea, and I usually do use beeswax when I make my beauty products because it just adds that extra layer of protection for your skin. Now, this one may not fill this jar. We'll see. Close. We're getting there. I want to get it all if I can. I am so pleased with how this came out. I liked my last batch, but I am down to the very bottom of the jar, so it's not empty, but it was definitely time to get some backup ready. And I'm super excited to see if I notice a difference using tallow. I'm just being fussy at this point, just trying to get it smooth on top, which is silly because as soon as I start to use it, it's not going to be smooth on top. I'm just used to it being smooth on top with the other products that I've made. But that looks gorgeous. I'm going to give this a little try. Again, I'm going to use the blades here. I can tell this is a little stiffer just by taking it off the blade. Oh, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. It just feels like there's more substance there. But to each their own. Get that rubbed in, and I'm going to wait just a few minutes and I'll show you, because we need time for that to absorb a little bit, but I'll show you the difference if we can see any noticeable difference on my hands, which, you know, my poor hands have not been well cared for throughout their life. I'm frequently outside. I rarely have sunscreen on. I'm washing my hands constantly. And I do things with my hands that are very hard. Like I installed all the flooring, almost 1,500 square feet of flooring in the basement by myself, did all my gardening stuff by myself, pushing, pulling, crimping, all of that. So my hands have taken a beating throughout their life. And I've been that way as long as I can remember, at least since moving here to New York from California, because I bought a house over the internet, never having seen it before personally. And when I moved in, I had to gut the entire thing down to wall studs and kind of rebuild the whole thing. Just, it was awful. It was awful, but it was what I could afford at the time as a single mom. And so I learned how to do home reno and again, put my body and especially my hands through the ringer. But I'm so pleased with how this came out. Just look at those. So here we have the one that we just did that has the beeswax in it, and here we have the one without. This one has, I think, a slightly stronger yellow tinge to it, or just an off-white tinge to it. This one looks more white, but not pure white. They feel incredible. Now this one, as I mentioned, this one feels like it has some substance to it, which I really like. Maybe some people would prefer that more for their body than their face, but I really like that. and a little definitely goes a long way. These are super rich moisturizers, and they just melt effortlessly into your skin. That is going to provide an incredible amount of hydration and nourishment. This one feels just a little, almost stickier, a little lighter, almost stickier, but not in a bad way, not in a bad way at all. The combined power of Tallow's skin mimicking properties with the healing benefits of the calendula and the comfrey, this is truly going to help repair and restore, giving your skin a healthy, natural glow. And now you have two options. Choose the pure tallow cream for deep facial nourishment, or the tallow beeswax for added protection and firmness. And we didn't even mention the cost savings on this. I know that before I started making my own products or using simple products like coconut oil, I used to spend a lot of money on Shiseido, and that is really, really expensive. And it also comes with synthetic ingredients. Most commercial face care products do, whereas this is 100% natural and again, has a really low comedogenic score. So not supposed to clog your pores. I'm not going to put the lids on these until I know that they're 100% room temperature. And there is a slight sheen to my hands. That's because I just put this on. That did go away after, I don't know, about 10, 15 minutes the first time, but this just feels absolutely incredible. I will let you know how I like it for my face, but for my hands, I mean, they're no longer even dry looking. I love that. It's incredible. Making your own tallow face moisturizer is a wonderful step toward clean beauty and self-sufficiency. It's a natural, effective, and a sustainable way to nourish your skin. Have you tried tallow? Which formula do you think that you would be more excited to try? With or without the added barrier protection of beeswax? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me for another Sunday Fun Day where I showed how to make DIY tallow moisturizers 2 ways. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.